Hi, it's Tracy, a grateful believer in Jesus who came to celebrate recovery with addictions to methamphetamine, alcohol, and being a sexual abuser. While reading through the New Testament, especially the Gospels, I bet you will see that Jesus asks a lot of questions of people. The Pharisees, the ones that were trying to trip Jesus up, who were trying to defend their position and knock him off course, they would often come up with these really outlandish questions. And Jesus would say, I'll answer it if you answer this, posing a question to them, which made them have to reflect and go introspective. Are they doing something sinful? Are they doing something a little slight underhandedly? With people that were sinning, Jesus would ask them questions, particularly one guy who wasn't necessarily sinning, but came to Jesus with a need. He was a blind man, and he walks up to Jesus with his stick, tapping out in front of him, tick, tick, tick. And Jesus says, what do you want? So it's these questions that Jesus continually asks. In the end of the Gospel of John, Jesus asked Peter 3 different times, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? Why would Jesus ask all these questions? Because he's getting to a heart of the matter with the people. And I thought, man, that is so brilliant, the way that he can just pose a question to someone to draw these things out. And I'm like, he must have learned that from his daddy. So I went back to the book of Genesis, the first book. The creation of man, God makes Adam, and then he takes a rib from Adam, and then he makes Eve. And he brings her over to Adam, and Adam says, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, and now we're one. And it says at the end of chapter 2 in Genesis, it said, they were naked and not ashamed. Chapter 3, the very next verse, they're tempted in the garden by the serpent. And Eve takes a bite of the fruit, and then she hands it to Adam, and Adam takes a bite of the fruit, and then they realize that they're naked. And they grab some leaves and they start weaving them together to cover up their nakedness. The very next verse is where I find it very interesting that God is walking through the garden and they hear him, so they run and hide. God shows up. The first thing he says to Adam is, where are you? A question. Adam steps out of the bushes and he's like, well, we were naked, and so we went and hid. And God says, second question, who told you you're naked? Third question from God right after that, did you eat from the tree that I told you not to eat from? Adam instantly goes into blame. Well, the woman that you gave me, she handed it to me, and what am I supposed to do? You know, she's the woman, she's the boss, right? So he didn't say that. He didn't say those words. But he instantly blamed the woman. Actually, he's blaming God for giving him this woman. He turns to Eve and he says, what is this that you have done? And she instantly begins to deflect the situation onto the serpent, tempting her. So right in that passage, you have God 4 different questions that he asks Adam and Eve without making a statement to them. He's asking them questions for them to get honest with themselves, to draw out this shame that they have inside of them, to draw out the fact that they're in denial and they're blaming. Questions are fantastic to draw things out of people, to draw things out of myself. In Celebrate Recovery, in the participant guide, we have all of these questions, and that's what they're designed to do. Questions give us answers. Oftentimes, the person that's asking the question may want to receive the answer to that question. But the fact of the matter is, the way God works is that questions are posed to us throughout all of the Bible for us to reflect on ourselves. In the participant guide, the questions are asked that we might think about these things. We write down our answer. Then when we come to our inventory, we start to take all of our answers that we've had and we begin to build a list in our inventory. People that we resented, what was the harm done, what was the cause and effect of that. And in our answers from the previous questions, they can start to relate to what it really was. The true answer. Am I in denial of something? Did I do what I did just out of shame? Was I in any of my purposes trying to blame someone else or deflect the thing from myself? Questions are highly, highly important, and they're very, very intrinsic into the soul of us, the participants. Those of us who are sinners in this world, who are just looking to be right, to get well, who are seeking the hand of God. As sponsors, it is beholding on us to emulate what Jesus did, right? We don't forgive sin, but we love the person that's in sin. And so we need to ask questions. I have a friend of mine, and he has a saying, and I really like it. It says, if you want a better answer, ask better questions. And I think as a sponsor, as an accountability partner, I need to learn how to ask better questions of people in their hurt. And I do, but I don't know if I do it, well, okay, I don't do it as effectively as Jesus. I don't know anyone who does. But the Spirit of God lives in me. That means the power of the Spirit is in me that can form these questions that can help someone else. When I ask a sponsee a question, I'm not trying to pry into their life and figure out everything that's going wrong with them. I'm asking them to look inside of themselves and draw them out. But it just became curious to me that maybe I'm not always asking the best questions. And so I need to work on that. Asking good questions to get good answers. Any of you that are just participants and you are not sponsoring anybody, this is for you too. When you open your participant guide, when you're prayerful about each lesson before you begin, ask God to open the eyes of your heart and your mind that you may see the beauty of His law, His truth, because He's not condemning. He only wants us to come clean that we may be well and healthy. God doesn't ask us a question. Jesus didn't. When He asked the woman at the well after everyone had left from stoning her, they didn't stone her. He says, where are all the stoners? He didn't say that either. He said, where are your accusers? And she said, they've all left. And He said, okay, go and sin no more. The questions that come up in our hearts and our minds, the questions that are given to us, if we stop and take a moment, not be defensive or not be elusive from it, knowing that God holds no shame over us. He only wants what is well and good for us. Perhaps then we can come up with the answers inside of ourselves that we ourselves don't even know or may not know. Maybe we've suppressed the answer for a long time and blamed Joe for doing that. I only did what I did because of what Joe did. When I calm down, trusting and knowing that God is holding no rebuke over me, no shame over me in this, He only wants what's good for me, then I might understand, well, I did have a part in this deal with Joe, and it's not entirely his fault. He owns his, and I own mine, and for that, I seek forgiveness or make amends for it. Asking good questions and allowing ourselves to be honest in the answers. Again, I'll go back to the blind man with Jesus. He came to Jesus, and Jesus said, what do you want? And it could be very apparent to anybody standing around, the blind man wants to see. And Jesus wants him to see. Not necessarily with his physical eyes, but with his spiritual heart. But He gave him sight anyways, because that's just how good He is, right? Well, God is that good to you too, and to me. So when you come across questions in Celebrate Recovery, in the participant guides, when God speaks to you something that's in a question form, when a sponsor or an accountability partner asks you something, think about it and let it resonate in your heart. If you want good answers in your life, ask good questions. My name is Tracy, and I am a grateful believer in Jesus. I love you, and God loves you, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. Have a good day. God bless you.